What's up, guys? I hope you're having a good holiday season, and good timing too, cause there's a lot of really cool stuff coming out movie-wise. I figured I'd make another video talking about a certain movie I saw over the weekend. This is a special one too, cause it's been a highly anticipated movie of mine for this December. It just happened to come out this past weekend, and it stars one of my all-time favorite actors with Williem Dafoe. I know everyone is hyped for this movie, so I had to get my thoughts out of the way. That's right. The movie today I'm going to be talking about is the one, the only Nightmare Alley. Yeah, this is the movie you guys are all excited for, right? It has Willem Dafoe. It came out over the weekend, so I gotta talk about it. But for those who are unaware, Nightmare Alley is the newest film from famous Hispanic director Guillermo del Toro. He's another talent I definitely admire and love because he brings some of the coolest and original movies that come out in recent memory. While I don't think every film of his is a masterpiece, when he creates a great movie, it becomes something super worthwhile. Coming off of his Best Picture winner with The Shape of Water, I was very excited to see what he had in store this time, and thankfully, Nightmare Alley is a really great film from him. While I don't think it's quite as strong as something like The Shape of Water, the amount of creativity and craftsmanship pulled off by Del Toro and his team more than makes up for it. Much like his last film, this is another movie that takes a lot from classic cinema, as it feels like a classic noir thriller. A lot of his strengths as a director are very much highlighted here, as the production design, cinematography, and editing are all meticulously well done here. So many aspects that truly help make Del Toro a visionary, as it's a visually stunning film that does immerse you into this world he creates here. It all feels very original and unique, despite it technically being a remake, actually. And I think that's due to the fact that Del Toro really knows how to be creative with visual storytelling. This movie also has a fairly big cast, and while some are admittedly not in the movie as much as you would hope, they all do a great job here. Everyone has their own distinct personalities, and they all have at least one or two memorable moments that are really highlighted with how good of a performance each actor gives here. Main props to Bradley Cooper, who gives one of the best performances I've seen of his career. I love how he manages to utilize his words to manipulate people in a way that's very convincing. And he has one moment in this film that really showcased how much of a great actor he is. Cate Blanchett also gives a big powerhouse performance when she shows up, being also very manipulative, but more threatening as kind of the film's main antagonist here. The other actors, such as Toni Collette, Ron Perlman, Richard Jenkins, and Willem Dafoe, all do a great job, even though, like I mentioned earlier, I wish some of them had a little bit more screen time, particularly Dafoe. Yet, their moments in the film were still worthwhile, as this movie really built up a lot of its theme of having too much power and being egocentric in a captivating way. It isn't quite as tight of a narrative, with some moments dragging on a bit longer than needed, not too often, but considering its 2.5 hour runtime, I guess that was partially inevitable. But all of that is forgiven with the film's final moments that sums up the film in a way that truly sticks with you. Not gonna reveal it for obvious reasons, but once you get to that moment, it makes everything in the film feel worthwhile. Nightmare Alley is just more proof that Guillermo del Toro is an ambitious, creative mind that I'm glad was given the opportunity to make something like this. It might not be his very best, but it's still visually captivating, that's unique, in the exact kind of way you would expect from a creative director like Del Toro. So take that for what it's worth. And I'm gonna give Nightmare Alley a 9 out of 10. Definitely check this one out. It's totally worth your time, and you should, cause it's not like there's some big Marvel movie that just came out this past weekend that also stars Willem Dafoe or anything like that. So, catch you later, guys! Oh right, I almost forgot. I did want to bring some attention to another movie I saw over the weekend. You might have heard of it. It's this smaller little movie known as Spider-Man No Way Home. So I think it's pretty clear that there's a lot of hype going around for the newest installment in the MCU Spider-Man movies. Before I go into talking about the movie itself, I do want to emphasize for those who are concerned, this will be a spoiler-free review. Outside of the stuff that's already seen in the trailers, I just want to get my brief thoughts out of the way and let you know what you're in for. Plus, I want to briefly discuss my thoughts on the previous MCU Spider-Man movies. I don't like them as much as some of the other Spider-Man movies, but I think they're very solid entries in the MCU and good Spider-Man movies as a whole. So I was hoping that this one would be more or less the same. Wasn't getting into the hype factor as much as so many other people I know, and that might be because of Marvel ending things pretty good with Endgame still. But truth be told, I was genuinely curious about how they were going to incorporate the multiverse angle with this Spider-Man movie. And I gotta say, while it's certainly not as good as Spider-Verse, or Nightmare Alley for that matter, it might be the best live-action adaptation of the character since Spider-Man 2 in my opinion. This is a really good movie that has a lot of what you want to see in a movie that advertises itself as a celebration of Spider-Man on film. Much like Zack Snyder's Justice League and Ghostbusters Afterlife, it is very much a fan service movie that has a lot of moments that totally caters to fans. Yet, much like those movies in my opinion, it succeeds with it more than it does not. I say it's partially because they do make it a good wrap up for this trilogy featuring Spider-Man. They do a lot of neat and fairly surprising things that make this movie have a lot more of an impact story-wise. They do a really good job making it feel real on how this world would treat Spider-Man's identity being public. And it's interesting to see how Peter Parker handles it. Tom Holland definitely sells this role very well. Not only still giving a great performance as Spider-Man, but also sells the emotion this character can go through. He certainly sells his performance as being very heartbroken and frustrated at certain points. And certainly a very fleshed out version of the character given all the movies he has been in. Also, like the previous two Holland movies, the highlights are the villains. But this time around, it's a little more special. The way they handled the original villains integration worked so well, and I think it's due to the actors giving it their all as these characters. Even Electro and the Lizard have more of an impact this time around in my opinion. Though let's be real, the true best part of this movie is God himself, Williem Dafoe. Surprisingly, a lot more screen time in this compared to his role in Nightmare Alley. Though, that's not necessarily a bad thing here, as his character is easily the best part of this movie, just like how he was for the original Spider-Man movie. Every line of dialogue, every single line spoken, you can tell Dafoe is really having the time of his life as this character. He definitely helps makes this movie one of the better Marvel movies simply for being the crazy lovable villain he is here. And you know, for all intents purposes, I do like that this movie does feel like a proper third movie that neither previous Spider-Man movie franchise really got. It feels very conclusive and great for both of those series being highlighted here, though the movie isn't quite perfect either. While it is engaging and even gets darker than the other Spider-Man films, it does have some very MCU-like crowd pleaser moments that can feel a little forceful. Like there are still moments where people are acting like it's more of a comedy bit than necessary at points, though it is admittedly still okay here due to how the dialogue written here is still pretty funny with the right amount of fun callbacks to the other films. Plus, more so than the other MCU Spider-Man movies, this does feel a little bit more cinematic. It has some set pieces that are visually captivating and even some really good shots here and there. Though the biggest thing I will briefly mention here is that there is one aspect of this film that was admittedly worse than I expected. And without revealing what exactly it is, it does deal with a previous film making a reveal, only for that reveal to feel like something that didn't really matter all that much. I won't say what it is, but I gotta say, it was a pretty cheap move. Despite that though, I think Spider-Man No Way Home is a really satisfying entry to the MCU. While it doesn't reach the height of greatness achieved by Endgame and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, for being a great tribute to this character and a good conclusion for the Tom Holland trilogy, it does achieve the recognition of being a great blockbuster in many regards. It's fun, has heart, and is an overall blast of a movie that I think will satisfy longtime fans. So take that for what it's worth. I'm gonna give Spider-Man No Way Home an 8 out of 10. Both movies are really good and definitely worth checking out for sure. Though seriously, please don't let Nightmare Alley be overlooked despite the fact that Spider-Man also came out this weekend. See both, honestly, because Nightmare Alley is the exact kind of weirdly unique movie I love seeing more of. Either way, have a happy holidays, and I'll catch you guys in the near future. Peace.
Spider-Man, where are you coming from, Spider-Man? Nobody knows who you are.